The following movie is rated PG-13.
Conventions. A perfect way to get out of the ordinary everyday workplace and just be yourself. Ever since middle school, I wanted to attend a convention, but I didn't know what con to attend. It wasn't until May of 2012, when I became a brony, that I started hearing about these conventions for the fans of My Little Pony. I had my eyes on 2 conventions during the summer, and I started to beg my parents if we could go to them. It wasn't until 2014 that I attended my first convention, Everfree Northwest. I had a blast at the con. I got to learn new stuff, meet the voice actors for Garcia and Revel, that being Spike and Gilda, and of course, made new friends at Everfree. After attending my first con, I wanted to return to Everfree for next year. It happened and I managed to meet Redcard, a con vlogger, soccer ref, and PMV editor. It was also the first time I attended the con with a cosplay, met some celebrities, made even more friends, and became a client for Magpie Pony to record her panels when she ever came to Everfree Northwest. I enjoyed my second year and I made sure to register for my third year, but the third year was going to be interesting. The first year of attending Everfree was blown out of proportion when I realized that this was the con's 5th anniversary. Knowing that, I decided to make a little montage for them as soon as the con was over. As for the con itself, well, during the in-between time of the con, I met up with Selfie Pony at one of the parties I attended. He recognized me and we became instant friends. Other than that, I met Dr. Wolf again, but this time I met Silvercoil and the Fiery Joker, and then got to finally meet and thank Saberspark for bringing me into the fandom with this little study for college. I met Lunajax, who allowed me to get past the recording security so I can get his performance, met a family that actually watched my content, got to know Discordus Magic, who'd be the Princess of Everfree, and I got to hear Peter Clements do Rolf portraying Big Daddy McCult. That moment alone made my day. After Everfree Northwest had ended, I still had one more con up my sleeve, and it was something that I had planned since 2014. I decided to attend BronyCon up in Richmond, British Columbia. This was the first MLP con that wasn't Everfree Northwest, but it was also the first time in years that I returned to Canada since childhood. The con was decent and I liked it fair enough, but what made it stand out was for Everfree Brony, who I met in 2014 before he left for his mission in Argentina, was attending the con. I met up with him once again alongside Chi-Chi, another musician I sorta knew until Selfie gave me a sudden reminder before the con. Then another special occasion was that I got to meet Andrea Libman, who voiced Pinkie Pie and Fluttershy, one of my favorite ponies of the show. I got her autograph and got a photo with her. It made BronyCon into a special time for me. Overall, BronyCon was a decent con, but I was surprised that it was the only MLP con in all of Canada. Hopefully someone might have another con happen in Canada, and it'll be bigger. 2017 kicked things into high gear, with it being my 5th attending con, and a surprise attending day at Emerald City Comic Con, but we're here to focus on the MLP conventions. So anyway, Everfree Northwest in May was definitely a good one. I met a lot of great cosplayers, did Wilsonator, learned something from Dr. Wolf and Silvercoil, met another fan who watches my material, recorded a lot of great panels, as well as get one of the best moments from the con, and finally meeting digital animator Corvus Hooves and seeing him on the con floor. Everfree this year was a fun con, with great experiences and con memories that have happened this weekend. I'll never forget them. Now, the reason you are here, my friends, is because this will answer the question that has plagued your mind since the last convention vlogs. Those questions being, what has happened after the vlogs? Where will I go next? And most importantly, what is next for conventions? All of that and more will be answered tonight on this special edition of Con Vlogs, and it starts right now. come to this point where I begin to announce my next con vlog? Guess so. The reason for it is because we're nearing it. Now, if you're wondering what the con is and you haven't guessed already, I'm actually going to the one, the only, and the first pony convention to be diverse, and that got them into trouble, BronyCon, up in Baltimore, Maryland. Yep, that's right. I'm actually going to BronyCon, finally, after many years. I mentioned in the narration that it was one of the few conventions I wanted to attend for a while. And it is true. I really wanted to attend BronyCon. Only problem was, BronyCon was in the East Coast. And unfortunately, I did not have any way of getting there without having to scout people. I wasn't going to do that. So, it was mainly Everfree Northwest for a while. And by a while, I mean 2 convention years. So, during that time, I was lucky enough in 2016 to go to BronyCon up north, and you can see the vlogs in the card if I ever wind up get around to adding that. There's a lot that's happening at BronyCon right now, but I've got a rough draft here of what thing I may attend or not. It all depends on what we've got going on. And by we, I mean both my mom and I. Because it's just her and I going to the east to see this convention. But also for a day to see my relative who actually lives in Washington, D.C. Anyways, it's a rough draft here, but one thing that's completely and utterly mandatory is attending both the opening and the closing ceremonies. There are many things happening that either I'm going to have to cut short, or I'm going to have to figure out time in between to make sure I attend these. The one I seem to have trouble with the most is Flutter's Tea Party and TF2 Analysis Anarchy. Why? Because I love TF2. Because not only do I love the Analysis Anarchy videos that Dr. Wolf and Lightning Bliss and all the crew running behind it have made, it just for whatever reason cuts into one of the cosplay plays. And we all know how that went with the Shimmer Glimmer Power Hour. But, I think for the most part there is a lot going on to this convention more than anything else. For the most part, I think I'm free from everything. But I believe a certain special thing I'm going to be doing at the con is I am actually going to make a little plush of a Pony OC for my friend in Kentucky. Both him and I, who I will not disclose his name because I will not know how people would feel about, the name being disclosed. But I'm going into the mini plush creation room, which will force me to have to miss out on it'll force me to have to miss out on the anime dub panel. But the DIY plush right here, where I got my from, essentially I'm going to make my friend's OC, but I'm also going to make another pony OC. Not similar to the one like Mini Furb up here. It's more or less... Okay, I haven't said this before to you guys, but I actually have a second pony OC that I own. It was sort of kind of a help creation from my friend whose location's completely and utterly unknown, but essentially she helped me out to create a pony OC who has a thing for costumes and actually runs a shop in Ponyville for, and her name is Zipper Zest. And I really love Zipper Zest, and sometime I would like to actually have a plush for her to be made. There were a couple of last-minute changes to all of this, especially with the Who's line panel. Or is it Hooves line? I don't know. I'm mostly saying Who's line, which is what I think Everfree in 2014 said. But essentially, I've got the plush going on. It's running for about 2 hours for just about 2 hours, which this is completely cutting the ball right here, because the mini plush panel is literally 2 hours. How much time do I have until I have to go into Who's line? An hour and 45 minutes. The schedule moved from 4:45 all the way down to what they originally were going to start at 5 o'clock. That's what the BronyCon schedule listed. But as soon as AC Race, I call him Race for whatever reason. It's Race that winded up announcing at the last minute that 4:45 is the new time that Who's line is going to be happening. And I literally cannot withhold my hatred for such schedule changes at the last minute. It drives me insane. But other than that, I believe I have a bit of the cosplay to look at. If not, I'll just do whatever and then head over to the gala, which of course the theme this year is Masquerade. So, something along the lines of, I always keep thinking this, Eyes Wide Shut, which if you don't know that movie, it's one of Stanley Kubrick's final movies, and probably the final one he did before literally dying. Like, he just got done finishing the movie or whatnot, and then he just died. Eyes Wide Shut is... It's really hard to explain it since it is an insane, artsy type of movie. Essentially, it takes place in New York, and a married couple wind up sort of having indifferent parts between each other. The main husband goes in to figure out where his wife has gone through this masquerade going on at this insanely huge mansion. And I'm just going to stop here, because what I will say continuing onwards, it might make some people sick to their stomachs. And it's mostly because it's not advertiser friendly. Thanks a lot, YouTube. Jokes aside, I think for the moment being, Friday is good, Saturday is good, and
Best part is, both Lost Narrator and Magpie Pony will actually be there, so I will be able to record their session there. Because I'm their freelance client to record their stuff. I mean, you've seen the Everfree Northwest videos. So, you know what's going on. Obviously, with them being at Everfree Northwest, I sorta kinda set up a contract. Well, it ain't official. It's something that I have to be... It's something that I've got going on. At least with Everfree Northwest. This is the first time I'll be stepping out from my home convention and into the East Coast. So... That's something. And if you're wondering about those pauses, I got a guy that I'm talking to on Steam. He's a... back to the story. I don't know why I keep going off topic. Everything's going smoothly here. Friday's good, Saturday is good, and Sunday is perfectly fine. I think other than that, the one thing I've got going on that I may be doing on... the one thing that I've got going on Friday that I've kind of run into an issue with is... Okay, so you guys know by this point I release the vlogs, which will either be Wednesday or Thursday, depending on the upload times. Essentially, my birthday is on Saturday the 12th. The con happens from the 11th to the 13th. So it's a big question on whether or not I can attend one of the panels, even if it's somewhat late at night. That is sort of this panel that's paying homage to Nicolas Cage. Reason I'm running into this issue is because it's a 21 plus panel, and you have to literally be 21. They'll have you pull out your identification before you go in there to see whether or not you can attend or not. That's pretty much the only issue I'm running with, is not being able to attend the panel. That's the biggest issue. So I think other than that, the schedule is good. I just gotta make sure everything at the last minute is set up. Of course, I will maintain radio silence on Wednesday, at least for when I'm flying out. Which, speaking of flying out, the one thing I'd like to make perfectly clear is, as much as I literally want to fly Alaska, because their flight is literally a non-stop flight, like, it runs from SeaTac all the way to Baltimore, no stops. Well, that didn't go over so very well this time. What I mean by that is Southwest Airlines, because the one rule is, if you can find the cheapest plane for the if you can find a very cheap flight for the best amount, you're perfectly set. So our airline this time, instead of Alaska, is going to be Southwest. Now, for our Seattle flight, at least by the time we arrive, like at 9 p.m. Thursday, we leave at 11:55. We'll be there nearly 3 hours early so we can get past airport security and be able to make sure we get our seats. But I also have to get my mom to check in 24 hours in advance so that we at least have some decent seats. But back at hand, it's going to be a late morning travel from my home to the Everett Transit. Then we take the Sound Transit, as we actually have one of those here. The Sound Transit goes from the Everett station to Seattle. I'm not sure where, but it's going to hub in Seattle. From there, we will go down and take the light rail over the SeaTac. And once we arrive, that's when we arrive 3 hours early to get past airport security, wait there for a bit, and get seated in our right seats and take off at 11:55. Once that happens, we'll wind up arriving in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, MKE. I can't remember what the MKE stands for. I understand BWI, which is Baltimore Washington International, and you obviously know SeaTac. But essentially at 5:45, their time, like I think it's Central or Eastern. I think they're on Eastern. I think they're on Central Time. So that's like 2 hours from this point. So it'd be 9 in Central Time. Well, we got a 2-hour wait when we head over to our next plane in Southwest. Same flight. Same flight, different plane. And from there, we'll arrive at the Baltimore Convention Center BWI. We'll arrive at BWI by 9:55. So literally, it zaps the time that we've got. And I will be sitting on that plane non-stop. It's going to be an interesting trip, and having to travel with nothing but with a book and a laptop and a tablet. Why a tablet? Because from what I hear, the Southwest planes don't have much for electric plugs. It's like one of the most demanded things there is. Like, it's one of the most demanded parts of the plane. But from what people say online, there is no electricity, there's no electronics or entertainment for the flights. The only thing that makes Southwest worth it is all the comedic people that make the flight experience a bit better. There's 2 videos on YouTube that show before a flight begins, there is this insane, very funny flight attendant who winds up giving sort of kind of this stand-up comedic introduction to the flight and making sure you understand the rules while also making some funny related comments. But then there's also another one where there's this guy and he's doing an impression of all the Looney Tunes characters he can. And it's essentially when they're just about to arrive at their airport. I don't know about the Looney Tunes one, but it's funnier than hell. And I do recommend checking it out. For the weeks that have passed, currently I've been working on getting a couple of things set up for the flight to make sure I keep myself occupied. I got a couple of games I've set up on the ROG laptop. I've got a few itineraries here on the tablet. Since I've got cable recently, I'm able to view a lot of recorded products when I'm away from home. essentially the one thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to bring some of the recordings over from my my DVR onto the tablet here. And this is literally, excuse me, this is literally one of the ways I can view stuff on. I mean, they sort of kind of have a TV Anywhere service, much like Dish and now DirecTV. I can make a Twitter sound. Like, there is a limitation on what could be brought onto the plane. For one, you're kind of sort of limited on what you can download. Like, as much as I really would love to watch The Music Man on my flight, just for an example, I can't because of the limitations of how the cloud, which is literally their way of saying, here are the select programs, at least recorded at that time, that you can take with you on the flight. Essentially, that's the only stuff I can take with me. I've ripped a couple of movies from my DVDs, so I'll have something to watch on the flight. I don't know how much the ROG laptop will last, but I'll see how much I can get out of it before I switch over to this, so I can watch stuff like War Games, or Seven Brides or Seven Brothers, Raging Bull, League of Their Own, Some Like It Hot. But then there's also, what's the one? Oh yeah, right. I got a couple of other movies I downloaded from Netflix. The two of them, for example, I've got Hugo and Ernest and Celestine, which, if you ever get a chance to watch one of those two, I definitely highly recommend it, especially Ernest and Celestine. Beautifully animated, and I'm surprised that the foreign countries still have 2D animation. But, that's essentially at least what's currently happening right now. So, that's about it, and I'll see you guys for tomorrow's vlog. Or, like I said, there'll be a double upload right on the time I arrive at the Hilton, Baltimore. Yes, I'm staying in the main convention where it connects to the convention center. The main hotel where the convention will be connected. I'm a bit excited for this trip. I will not lie. But, anywho, I'll see you guys sometime within within the next day, but it'd be entirely one vlog, or 2 vlogs free, if you want to count the flight video, all within one spanning day. I'll be surprised what Red Card will think of all this. But for now, I'm left here to guess. So, yeah. See you guys later.